Back in the 90s, my friends and I spent way too much time at Denny's. Now, it wasn't exactly because we loved Denny's, it was because it was really the only place you could go at 3 in the morning. Well, after enough crazy experiences there, I finally shoved a bunch of them into a single short story. So today, I'm going to be reading you a story I call Cup of Joe. It had been half an hour since death, and we still hadn't been seated yet. What could I say? I guess that's what you get for kicking the bucket at 4 in the morning on a Tuesday night. Just my luck. I'd died and gone to Denny's. We stood staring at the various styles of pie that sat perched on flimsy shelves behind plastic glass. No one actually ordered them, at least no one I'd ever known, and I always suspected they were really made of glazed rubber. I stared down the rows of stools running along the front counter, the ones used only by truck drivers who couldn't sit in real chairs anymore, and people waiting for their phone-in orders. A phone set to the right of the stools where anyone could order pizza while they waited. After what seemed like just under 3 days, a waitress approached like an old hound dog coming to smell a dead bird. I guess she was about 50, which meant she looked 70. Her long jowls sagged unevenly as her head seemed permanently cocked to one side. "Smoking or non?" she wheezed, smacking a mouthful of gum as if it were sustaining her somehow. The color of her skin said she'd smoked since age 6, and I knew the gum probably was sustaining her at this point. "Smoking," I said, chipper as I could, considering my feet had swollen like flat soccer balls, just standing in the non-existent line. In addition, I was famished, and the fact that I was dead didn't help either. She turned like a broken lazy Susan, the kind which revolved only one direction, and headed off to the back. I don't actually smoke, mind you, but somehow the cute waitresses always service the smoking section, while I got the 86-year-old grandmothers with Alzheimer's, who not only forgot the orders, the coffee refills, and the ketchup, but often where we were, and most of the time who we were. She led us to a familiar green booth, which looked like every other Denny's booth we'd ever seen, and slapped one of the menus on the table between us. I didn't know why they never had enough. I always guessed they'd been donated to remedial libraries or confiscated for all the stupid and overpriced dishes. I couldn't help but think that if I'd died during the day, we might have had a decent restaurant. Something with a little pizzazz, some edible food, or at least a table cleaned since last week. Oh, what's-his-name stared at me from across the table in the unopened menu. I'd known him half my life, a number I could clearly define now, but couldn't remember his name. I attributed it to the slight effect death had on the mind. "Coffee?" he said with a mouth that lay constantly open, his chin always seeming to rest comfortably around the vicinity of his feet. I nodded. "2 coffees. He corrected, glancing up at the unimpressed waitress. Placing both hands on her hips, she shrugged. "Your waitress will be here in a moment." I couldn't complain. At least she wouldn't be our waitress. A young blonde-haired girl with perky breasts and a pot of coffee came towards us, past us, and continued on into the non-smoking section. "Of course," I said, throwing my hands up in surrender. My friend, who I decided to call Jeff, and answer to it easily enough since he couldn't remember his own name any more than I could, rolled his eyes, and for once closed his gaping mouth. "Coffee?" We turned to see an 80-year-old grandmother with ketchup stains on her purple apron. "Coffee," I said. "Coffee?" she asked again. "Coffee," I said again. "2. 2 what?" "Coffees," I said. "And what'll he have?" "Coffee too." "2, she asked. "No, just 1, please." The ancient woman turned away, pretending to scratch something down on her pad with an invisible pen, and I wondered if we would ever see her again. Turning back to Jeff, I saw nothing but an open menu, and his thick brown hair crusting the top edge like a furry animal running back and forth. I don't know why he bothered. He always ordered the same thing, "Moons over my hammy," or something like that. What magic 8-ball or dart board had been used to come up with that name, I'll never know. Charlie? Jeff said, using the name we'd agreed on for me. Do you think they might have pancakes this early? Don't know, I said, shrugging. What about banana pancakes? I think that's IHOP, I said, leaning back in my seat and wondering when I'd get to look at the menu. A ceremony even I had to go through, although I always ordered the same thing as well. I think I'll just have moons over my hammy, Jeff said. Whatever trips your trigger, I said, whipping the menu out of his hands and skimming over the colorful pictures of dishes that never looked anything like they did in the menus. I'd always considered complaining about that, but figured I might as well complain about the service, or the stale coffee, or the lack of stale coffee that hadn't arrived yet. How long do you think this'll take? I shrugged. Long as usual. Just make sure you don't order anything weird on the side. I recalled the time I'd ordered a garden burger, my favorite dish, with pepper jack cheese, no onions, and no tomatoes. It didn't seem like all that strange in order to me, but the cook, who obviously was oblivious to the meaning of garden burger, sent me a bun piled high with onions, tomatoes, and what I swore was a grilled pancake for a patty. Upon further examination, the patty proved to actually be a grilled pancake, and I wasn't quite sure how to tell the waiter who had taken an hour to bring me that. I forgot to ask for creamer, Jeff said, suddenly concerned. I shrugged again. It's better not to ask. Then you have a chance of getting it. The coffee came 20 minutes later, and I was perusing the dessert menu I never ordered from, but liked to look at. A bowl of creamer accompanied the coffee, enough to show the waitress didn't want to return later with any more. 2 coffees, she said, appearing quite proud of herself, and I was inclined to agree. As we turned to sip the rank liquid, she vanished again without taking our orders. I watched Jeff make a face after one small mouth sip and proceed to dump almost half the bowl of creamers into the murky liquid, followed by 4 packs of sugar. This was good because I needed the other half of the bowl, though I had to steal sugar from the table behind us. I made sure to leave behind the sweet and low and equal. Equal to what, I'd always wondered. To our left, a young man with full artist's beard ashed a cigarette while penciling his latest masterpiece of a naked woman lounging on the back of a rather pleased-looking Bengal tiger. He held it up for both of us as though he'd known us for quite some time and we'd actually asked to see it. Not bad, eh? He said with a sarcastic edge to his voice that told me he wasn't the least bit happy with it, but wanted us to say we loved it. I studied the woman for a moment, thinking she looked awfully familiar. An actress, perhaps. I think she died some time back. Her dark eyes stared straight out of the piece, as though at any moment she might leap out and bite me, or beg to make love to me, or both. She's very pretty, I said, still examining her youthful form, enjoying the excuse to stare at a naked woman. I know, it sucks, he said, throwing the woman face down. Jeff seemed very disappointed. Mind if I join you? The artist asked, obviously disgusted with the idea of returning to his work. I shrugged as he pulled up a chair. So how long you been here? I asked. It seemed like a good opening question. A few days, he said, turning back to retrieve the coffee from his table. I think I ordered a steak or something, and this time I'm waiting till I get it. I nodded an understanding nod, knowing full well that having changed tables, he didn't have a chance. A Denny's waitress could easily be confused by switching one's chair, let alone entire tables, even adjacent ones. Just then, a young girl with shaved hair flopped down on both knees at the end of the table beside the artist's chair. She slammed a brown mug down on the edge and rested her chin right beside it. "This is a Denny's cup," she announced, sounding very sure of herself. Very sure and very drunk. I agreed. A very nice Denny's cup. "I'm here with my friends." She slurred her words far more than was probably necessary, the sign of someone who enjoyed the benefits of acting drunker than one actually was. "I always take a Denny's cup with me. I've got, 8 or 9. She rolled her eyes back as if to remember the exact number. After several moments, her glazed eyes leveled out. "What was I talking about?" "Cups," I said helpfully. Oh, I don't wear a cup. I'm a girl. She giggled loudly. I know I don't look like one. Everyone sees my hair and figures I'm a boy. I shaved it 'cause it got too long, but I cut it myself and I got this scar right here. She pointed to a white line on her shaven crown. Then I got a tattoo. Want to see? I shook my head no. Well, my mother didn't like it. She said only bohemians got tattoos. I think they were a band or something. I like music. My friends like music. This one guy's got a shaved head and he looks just like me, except everyone thinks he's a girl. And he used to ride motorcycles in the circus until he broke his leg and decided the trapeze was safer and started riding horses. She took a much needed breath and continued. I always liked horses, especially brown horses. Her eyes rolled back again and seemed to lose her train of thought. See you guys later, she said, standing up, and winked as she made for the door with the brown mug still in hand. I looked back at Jeff. You want to go flag down our waitress? I think I'm actually hungry. As if on cue, the grandmother appeared out of nowhere with a coffee pot. Oh, I'm sorry, honey. You ordered 2 coffees, didn't you? That's fine, I said, but I am ready to order. She refilled my coffee, ignoring Jeff's, and turned to go. Could we order? I asked, trying to sound as nice as I could. Of course, she said, turning back around. We both ordered, and she pretended yet again to jot everything down on her pad, spaced out, asked us for our order as if we just walked up, pretended to write it down again, and walked off. I tried to figure out what she'd done with the coffee pot she'd just been holding. The artist, who we decided to call Max, opened his mouth, but a manager approached. I'm afraid we're all out of lamb, said the manager, clasping his hands together in abject apology. Is there anything else you might like? I didn't order lamb, I said. I didn't even know you served it. We don't, said the manager incredulously. We never have. Is there anything else I can get for you? The waitress already took our order. You found a waitress, he said. Looking amazed or befuddled, I couldn't tell which. Yes, old woman, appears to be the same age as Methuselah. The manager looked confused. Oh, yes, I remember her. I think she works here. I hope so, I said, feeling a bit confused myself. She is a waitress, isn't she? Well, she wouldn't make much of a busboy, he said, grinning. She hasn't got the memory to be a busboy. With that, he spun on one heel and vanished back into that place managers always vanish. Neither the artist nor Jeff seemed fazed. The former took a pack of Marlboros from his shirt pocket and tapped one into his mouth. You guys don't mind if I smoke, do you? I mean, I guess we aren't at the smoking section. Jeff and I shrugged in unison. What the hell? I guess we're already dead. Good point, Max said, lighting up and blowing a thick cloud into the air. How did you guys wind up here anyway? TGI Fridays was closed, Jeff said, and got up to use the bathroom. After Jeff vanished, the artist turned one quizzical eye on me. Where are you going after this? I don't know, I said truthfully. Max sipped at his coffee. Well, whatever the case, I'm having that blasted steak. I wanted to say, good bloody luck, but decided against crushing his hopes. So, how did you die? It was one of those questions I'd never gotten to ask before, and knew now that I'd always wanted to. Max puffed on his cigarette and stared, thinking at the ceiling. Don't remember really. I think I fell off something or from something or got hit by something. You? All I remember is some guy juggling chainsaws. Max nodded. That'll leave a mark. I shrugged. Must have. I just can't remember why I was anywhere near a juggler at 4 in the morning. Is it 4 already? I guess so, I said, not completely sure of myself. Or at least I guess it was at some time or the other. I stared into my empty cup of coffee, an empty cup that might never be refilled again. This had to be hell. Just then, Jeff returned with a strange look on his face. The kind full-grown adults get when they watch small children top their pepperoni pizza with maple syrup. Don't go in there, he said, eyes still bulging like a fish squeezed by an overweight cook. Let me guess, it beat the Texaco? Jeff shook his head slowly and sat down, telling me without words that the Texaco restrooms couldn't compete if someone had come in, peed 6 cups of coffee from the door to the urinal to the sink back to the door handle. I considered stating this, but was afraid of coming close to the truth. Max leaned back in his chair and cracked his knuckles. Trust me, guys, if you want to go, the bushes in the back are a lot safer. Jeff nodded. No further convincing necessary, but suddenly had to run back, holding his stomach. I guessed it must have been some memory of having just been there. That was Jeff going back to what nauseated him just to throw up again. It reminded me of his dating life. Past him, from the restrooms, walked a girl so pale at first I thought she must be a living ghost or something. She was dressed in solid black, with various silver chains and rings dangling all about her person. She joined a group of others that looked just about like her at a table in the corner. I looked at the artist, slightly worried, and nodded toward the table. How long have they been there? Max shrugged. Not long. They aren't dead, just goths. Come and go all the time. Great, I said. Guess it's not much of a change for them, eh? Max didn't answer. He was staring off into the space around the general vicinity of the kitchen, as if he might will his steak to come. Again, our waitress appeared out of nowhere. What'll you boys have? She said, poising her invisible pen above an invisible pad this time. We already ordered, I said, and could I get some more coffee? Not too many things at once, dearie, she half snarled. Now, what would you like? Just some more coffee and what I ordered. I hated sounding irritated, but I was seriously hungry. When did you order, dear? When you first asked me. I ordered a garden burger and my friend ordered a moons over my hammy thing. Oh, that's a stupid sounding name, she said, looking down at Max, who was still staring at the kitchen. You don't look like the kind of young man that would order that. He didn't, I said. My friend's in the bathroom. And what did he order? The moon's over. Look, just get me some more coffee and ask the cook to send whatever it was you asked them to send. Oh, I haven't seen the cook in quite some time. I'm not sure we still have one, but I'll see what I can do. With that, she vanished again, and Jeff returned from the restroom. He looked as pale as the Goths. How did it go this time? Jeff just shook his head and clasped both hands over his eyes. What's Max doing? He asked, taking his hands away. We both looked at the artist staring at the kitchen. Yearning, I think. So what do you boys have? The manager asked, suddenly there again. I suppressed a growl. Grilled cheese sandwich, I said. A hash brown skillet for my friend and some raspberry custard for Max here. And don't hurry. The manager smiled and whisked away. Jeff stared at me. The hell are you doing? I shrugged and leaned back. Couldn't hurt. At least we might get our coffee. And remember, if you like this story, please check me out on Amazon. I have it in the description, and buy my book.